5:30. We'll call this workshop to order. Yeah, is that what you? Yep.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Daryl?
Daryl is under the weather.
Who to find?
Okay, so I guess everyone is here except for Daryl. And our goal tonight is to look at the 5-year capital improvement plan with the budget committee.
And where this is a workshop, again, I assume that I and the budget committee have your permission to speak as needed. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
All right, so if you're ready for me to do my thing.
I am ready for you to do your thing,
Okay.
Vic.
All right, thank you, members of the budget committee, for attending. Hopefully, by the time I'm done with this capital improvement plan this evening, you'll at least agree with me or disagree with me. At least you will have the information that's inside my brain. And the council has heard me talk a time or two about this. So I will go through it once again. And this conversation for me begins with a couple of key elements, with the understanding that this entire subject matter has a phrase that I oft use with staff and with council, which is everything is connected. And tonight I'm going to present a thought process to you that you can, at the end of the day, say, Vic, thanks, but no thanks. We're not interested. In which case I'll quickly change gears and move on to a different direction. As we go through the budget process over the next few weeks, the one thing that you're going to find, and you're going to hear me talking about quite a bit and others, is the financial condition of the town of Mechanic Falls. Mechanic Falls fundamentally is in a very sound financial position. You will note as we go through the next several weeks that debt service, we have a drop off of over $70,000 in debt service alone. We currently have for debt service, we're going to be entering in FY25, the last year payment of an excavator, and we're going to be entering year 4 of 5 for the repayment of the $500,000 road bond that the town took out a few years ago. Other than that, the town has no debt. This excites me. This has me asking several questions. Is there an opportunity for this town to exist debt-free? And if so, what does that look like? I have said since day one being here that I hate paying interest. Staff will tell you that. I say that all the time. I like getting interest, but I hate paying interest because I think it's a waste of money. And it's just another small way for me to help this town in the end by trying to plan for our capital needs moving forward and to see if, based on the amount of money we currently have and the amount of money we think we're going to need, is it even possible for us to live in a debt-free existence? You will quickly find as we go through this information, there are going to be 2 huge bugaboos beyond the everyday curveball of you never know. Bugaboo number 1 is going to be roads. I'm going to present tonight a 10-year road plan fresh off the press with the help of Rob Prue from Pine Tree Engineering. And I'm going to also share with you tonight all of the capital needs based on several conversations with all the department heads over the last several months. We have fine-tuned it, and the document that I will show you here shortly is not etched in stone. It's a plan. Plans change. Circumstances on the ground change, and which changes our plans. The most expensive items that this town or any town will ever purchase are fire trucks and roads. You will see in this capital improvement plan the replacement of 2 fire trucks, a pumper truck and a ladder truck. In my humble opinion, if anything stops us from the artful phrase of debt-free, it will probably be either roads or, more likely, fire trucks. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is hand out the information and we'll go through the packet. And I learned a long time ago that when you're given a speech, whenever at all possible, tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them what you told them. So in that vein, I will give out this packet and we'll go through it quickly and then we'll go through it in detail. And then I'll be more than happy to answer any and all questions.
Hey,
Okay.
Victor, before you get going, can I ask a question? Sitting on the budget committee, I think this is the 5th year or 6th year for me. We had a set amount of money that was being set aside every year for the exchange of fire equipment.
So we'll get into that in just a couple of moments. So, Ray, I'll keep one. I got an extra one here for Shy. Are we shy? Okay. Yes, Daryl is not here. Daryl's under the weather tonight. So I told him that he could watch the video if he so chooses. So what I'm going to do is I'm quickly going to go through the information and then we'll back up and we'll go through it in more detail. So the cover sheet you have here is a 5-year capital improvement plan. And as I stated earlier, this comes to us based over several months and several conversations with each member of the all the department heads and trying to fine tune this to the best of our ability. So this sheet that I give to you is based on what we know as of this evening or what we think we know. If you flip the page, you will see that I just used the funds that we have in relationship to the top page of the capital improvement plan. We have other capital and reserve accounts, but these accounts here are the current account names, the current balances, which goes a little bit to your question, Lou, and the proposed budget that I have for capital and reserve for FY25 and the math that totals those two numbers, and then a few notes off to the side. So if you flip the page again, you will come to what we have is the capital improvement, the capital and reserve budget that we will be presenting next Monday night. And this kind of breaks it out into more detail. And there are accounts here that aren't on the other pages because what we're tackling first are the major capital expenditures that we'll need to make. And if you flip to the next page, you're going to see a 10-year road improvement plan. This is just the summary. I have details. And this plan has changed a couple of times since it was first introduced by Rob Prue from Pine Tree Engineering. The 10-year plan, if you look down at the grand total on the column on the right-hand side, you will see it says essentially $2.5 million. When the first iteration of this plan was over $3 million. And that's over 10 years. Actually, it was a little less than 10 years, then went to 12, and we wound up at 10 as what is in front of you. And the reason why we went from 3 million down to around 2.5 million is because Scott and the boys will be taking on some of the elements in these road projects that we would normally vendor out for, but they will be doing quite a bit of gravel work and sidewalk work and different things that will go into more detail at another time. But I show this to you. This is pretty important doo-doo. So if you think about it, doing the 5-year, $500,000 bond means over a 10-year period, the town of Mechanic Falls would be putting $1 million towards the roads. This plan here calls in the same 10-year period, spending $2.5 million. So your roads need to be fixed. You can say, Vic, wonderful, they need to be fixed, but we don't want to spend any money doing it. That's fine. It's your town. But it's my job to try to look at the future, to try to plan for it, taking what dollars we have and what dollars we may need and trying to make both ends come together in the middle. Paula? It does not. It does not. The roads that were supposed to be done last year that will be done this spring those are already budgeted dollars. This picks up with later this year. So for FY 24-25, we would be looking to do North Street, and we would be looking to do Elm Street and redo the sidewalk from around the school all the way down to Lewiston Street, and to do the road from the railroad tracks down to Lewiston Street. Again, more details of that as the story unfolds. But for tonight, I just want to go through the basic plan. Okay. So you can see the summary for FY 24-25 is right there. Yeah. So that's already work that, while not completed, is already scheduled to be done. Okay. So if you flip the next couple of pages, each year, with the help of Lisa and our auditor, we have a list of our assets. And even though it's micro font, this gives you a current list of the assets. You can take, what do you call a magnifying glass to it and study it if you will. I'll be more than happy to send it out electronically if anybody wants it. But these are the different pages that create the overall plan that I want to discuss with you tonight. And so if there aren't any questions at this time, we'll go back to the top page and I'll go through this in more detail after a drink of water. So we begin with Scott in Public Works. So in conversations with Scott, based on our current inventory, we're going to be looking in FY 25 to replace a 2014 plow truck. Scott wants to do a little something different. He wants to get a 1.5 ton truck with plow package and estimated to be between $150,000 and $200,000. From there in FY 26, he wants to get a commercial grade mower for around $20K. FY 27 to replace a pickup truck, roughly $80K. Fire department, you can see some blanks and you can see some pretty big numbers. The conversation with fire trucks will probably straddle more than one fiscal year. So because fire trucks aren't easy to come by these days, so you have to start early planning. It could be as much as a year or two before the delivery of that truck. But we still need to plan. And so we have a 2000 pumper truck that they're guesstimating should be between $750,000 and $800,000. And then a few years later, we have the big kahuna, which is a ladder truck, estimated to be between $1.2 and $1.5 million. Now, as the years tick by, you all will have the conversation with me about whether we need new or can we do something that's slightly used or whatever the case may be. It'll be about availability. But for right now, just for planning purposes, it makes sense to put it on paper this way. Paula? It's my understanding that they use our ladder truck if needed. Police department.
On that, Poland is using equipment. What compensation is the town receiving from that?
So I'm not going to get into that tonight because that starts to nitpick. This is not a nitpicky conversation. This is a general frameworking conversation. But to answer your question in a broad term, I'm very happy to say that all towns work together well. And we will, as far as my efforts are concerned, we will continue to do that. The splicing of hairs, we can have those conversations at another time.
You know, that brings up another point. Maybe we should see that in black and white. Reciprocal nature of our resources with communities that surround us,
Sure,
we should see that.
sure. But
I totally agree with you and
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I just want to make sure that we're getting our equal value.
so moving on, so solid waste, the biggest item that we are saving for is to replace the bulldozer. And by the time FY 27 comes around, if Public Works is helping with the road plan by doing gravel work and whatnot, that old tired bulldozer is going to be older and more tired by the time we get there. So we definitely will be doing this. And there's possibility of doing some lot paving over at the solid waste over at transfer station. Admin, yep, sure. Different items, different things. Right. So like for the police cruisers, you'd be looking for a trade-in. For the bulldozer, you tell me. I don't know. It just depends when we get there. But for me, it's like building a house. You got to start with the blueprints and the framework, right? So for major equipment, you're talking about fire station? So it would be probably on that, and ask you to use your microphone. But it would probably be a trade-in, but it depends for that pumper truck based on discussions I've had. And we begin with this conversation. Vic doesn't have all the answers sitting here tonight. I'm just putting together the framework. But based on the conversations that we've had, yeah, both the pumper and the ladder truck would be trade-in material. How much you get, it depends upon the deal, right? For the admin, so I'm happy to report that we have a little informal ad hoc committee with Mr. Ray and Daryl, myself, and Ryan to work on what I have lovingly dubbed Fix 108. So we have an engineer's report that we got a year and a half or so ago at this point, and it suggested a handful of fixes for the facility. And this ad hoc committee and I are starting the process on these little projects. And some of them will be more minor, some of them will be severely major. So stay tuned, but we will be putting some money into this building. And initially, I'm thinking between 50 to 180K. If everybody agrees with the capital budget proposal, that's about what we'll have in the kitty, and I'll show that to you in a minute. The following year's TBD, to be determined, excuse me, will depend greatly upon the amount of money that we add to that particular line item in years moving forward. On the roads, so now that we have a roads plan for FY25, I'm budgeting $158,000 based on Rob's estimate for North Street. Now, understanding that North Street will be will be reclaimed and they'll base pave. And then the following year, it says North Street again. So the following year, they'll come back and they'll put the top coat on like we are doing to the other roads that were done a few years ago. And then we continue on with a plan. And that plan will probably, excuse me, it's probably a good time for me to say that this plan and the roads plan will be updated each year as we go through this based on all the ebbs and flows of life. Sidewalks. I'm excited about this. When I first came to this town, one of the very first conversations Scott had with me was, we need to fix the sidewalk on Elm Street. And so this is the year that we're going to get that done. And as the meetings go on, you'll get a lot more detail about that. The year after, and I'll be presenting it to the council later on this evening during the council meeting. But so far, the state is on course to fix the bridge and the intersection over the next couple of years. And it wouldn't be bad timing to fix that sidewalk. Sometimes the state will have a deal where they'll go into partnership with you to fix sidewalks and things like that. So we'll have to get to the nitty gritty, but it makes sense to fix that South Main Street intersection sidewalk. In your packet is the updated 3-year plan from the DOT. So that's in your packet. So you can take a look at that. But that work is still in the plan. The details of all of that will need to be ferreted out between now and then, but it's slated to be done. Yeah, I don't have the details yet. All right, so that takes us through. So to me, I look at it this way, be it through cash or be it through debt. This town will do all of these things. You will do these things. The question is, nah, Vic, we're not interested in what you're saying. We'll just wait till that moment comes and we'll take out loans and we'll do what we need to do. Fine. But if you do want to live in a land of trying to save money on interest from debt, then having a capital improvement plan and funding that plan makes total sense in my brain. So the next page. So what do we need for monies in order to do what was on the front page? So just looking at the needs for FY25, the Highway Equipment Fund currently has $146,852. We propose adding 80,000 to that, making $226,852, which will fund Scott's plow truck. The Fire Rescue Fund currently has $455,783. And by the way, kudos to those that came before us. And for many of you and Lisa who have done the work these many years before me getting here, to have already set aside this kind of money is a good thing. It fuels this conversation tonight, because if we didn't have any money set aside for the next fire truck, then there's no way we'd be able to do it with cash. So if you add the 85,000 that's proposed to the 455, you can see you get $540,783. For the police cruisers, they have enough money in the current budget, and they very well may. There's a note under the note section, buy cruiser in FY24. They very well may buy a third cruiser. They've been used to having two and not a third cruiser. So if we get this cruiser, they'll be paying for it. There won't be anything that will be traded in. And either or, if that gets done in 24, 25, the replacement of the 2020 cruiser and the 2021 cruiser are as slated. My rule of thumb on this, if you do the math, if you set aside $50,000 a year in the capital line for cruisers, that's going to get the job done for the capital improvement plan. So they currently have $56,998, and I'm setting aside another $50,000 proposed to give them $106,998, of which if they purchase a cruiser soon, the math will deduct itself.
We have a price.
So the only price that I have is what I gave you guys a couple of months ago at this point, and they decided not to do that. So it's an ongoing fluid conversation. Stay tuned.
But what was the conversation as to why they needed a third cruiser?
So they wanted a third cruiser because we were fully staffed at 6, and they wanted to have you need somebody smarter than me to sit here and tell you. And later on in a different meeting, we can have Jeff and Paul share with you their thought process on this. But basically, it was about adding augmented shifts is probably the best way to say it. I'm not coming up with the right phrase, but yeah, there's a reason. Stay tuned. Where are we? Solid
Do
waste
they have
reserve.
the ability to house that cruiser in a warm space as they do now?
So
Or will they be
the,
adding a new space to put that cruiser in?
to be determined down the road, that could be one of the curveballs. I don't know. Stay tuned. Always more information to make a more informed decision. Don't have all the answers tonight. Okay.
Totally understandable.
Solid waste reserve. We currently, based on some recent movement of monies, Norm Solid Waste Reserve has a current balance of $132,932. Looking to add 40,000 to that, which will give us 172, almost 173,000. We are looking to buy what they lovingly call a new can for the compactor. And if that comes through, that'd be around 12K. But other than that, unless we get some curveballs, it will be just a straight line saving money for the bulldozer, which again is just generally estimated at the 300,000. When we get there, who the heck knows?
Hey,
Maybe-
Vic, on that line of the bulldozer, what's the extended life time right now for the landfill before closure?
106 years.
We'll be able to cap it.
It's right behind me. It's up there on the wall. 106 years. In later this year, every 2 years, you need to get what they call a cell development survey plan. And so we got one, this will be the second year. So later this fall, we'll reach out to Haley Ward and they'll do another survey for us. Maybe it's 100 years, maybe it's 106, maybe it's 112. I don't know. But it was something that I've chased pretty hard based on when I got here. It seemed like we had to close it right away, and we don't. So there's good news. There's plenty of room over there. So it's worth the time, effort, energy to invest what we need to invest into that facility for the long term.
Good answer. I like that.
Yeah, that's just how it is. All right, municipal complex fund. We currently have $153,468, looking to add 30,000 to that, which would bring it to 183,468, minus whatever FY24 projects that are going on. I will tell you that based on our ad hoc committee, I have contacted a flooring company and they've taken measurements for the front foyer. That will be one of the first projects that we look to complete because we have masking tape on the floor out there and it's ugly and it needs to be fixed. It's time. And so they'll be doing that. I'm having them also do a quote for the upstairs that may or may not be a part of this deal. Maybe we do it in chapters. Stay tuned. I'm sorry?
Did we ever get the leak on the third floor?
Yes, the leak is solved. Yes.
Just checking, when do you hope to finalize this list of work for this year for the building?
It's a great question. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have a great answer. It seems like it's evolving because as I've stated to Ray and the other guys, this is not my world. You know, I'm not a general contractor. Thank God I got Ray, I got Daryl, I have Ryan. The town is in good hands with these people helping to shape, mold, and guide me. And I can tell you that the flooring, I can tell you that there's a big issue up in the PD office with sagging windows, which is a moisture problem from the roof, from the edge of the roof. And I have one quote, I'll be getting another quote, and that will probably be a spring to summer project that hopefully would be completed by June. So those are two projects I can tell you about. And there will be others. For example, the sidewalk, when you walk up the front side on the asphalt on the sidewalk, excuse me, it's very wavy gravy. And so we're going to be tearing that up, which is probably a good time for me to say the following. Scott and the boys, beyond all of their normal stuff, are going to be helping to do that in theory. They're going to be working on North Street in theory. They're going to be doing the sidewalk in theory, getting ready for the pavers to come in. And so they're going to be extremely busy this year and for time to come.
You don't
But
anti-
it's a great question. I'm just not fine tuned to give you a great answer.
No, and that's fine. I understand, but you're not, at this point, you're not planning on going over the 180,000 on the
No,
maximum side.
no, probably put a dent into that, honestly.
Mhm.
And then, so we get through this budget year. And so if everybody agrees and we add 30,000, and then we're sitting here this time next year, we'll take an assessment, excuse me, based on the projects that we've completed or have in the hopper versus how the capital budget is looking overall, how many surplus dollars we have,
Mhm.
and all of that will factor into how quickly we do this. That's why it says TBD, to be announced
Okay.
or determined, I should. Sidewalks, I think we thoroughly discussed. Other than the money, we currently have 121 and change, looking to add 15. That 136 would handle the estimation from Rob Prue on doing the Elm Street project.
Question, on the next page, it says homecoming. When do we have homecoming?
So Lisa has some vernaculars based on prior years and how that is the community day.
Okay, that's what I figured, but I figured I'd.
Back, way back machine, it was called homecoming. Over the years, it has evolved and, community day, but the bank account is still called homecoming.
Homecoming?
So you're going to hear me on this page here, you're going to hear me say a lot about the following over the next couple of weeks. And it's all because it's extremely true. Again, this is your town. You guys do this however you want to do it. I will present it in the fashion that I think it needs to be done. So on this sheet here that has the grocery listing of what is essentially your capital and reserve budget for FY 25, as we enter the conversation tonight, you will notice over on the right-hand column, surplus 178,000, budget 327,000, totaling 505,000. The current budget, capital reserve budget, is 554,000, I believe. The current year uses $380,000 of surplus money to help fuel the capitals and reserve budget. We don't have $380,000 to throw at it in the upcoming cycle. We only have $178,000, which leads us to the following paths to choose to walk down. Number one, as I've suggested since day one being here, the capital budget needs to be a standalone budget. You've heard me say this annually for the last 2 years, and I will say it this year as well. We cannot rely on surplus dollars to fund the capital budget on an ongoing basis. Over the recent years, I've been increasing the amount of monies for the capital budget and then using whatever surplus dollars we do have to fuel it that much more, to tuck away monies like we've already discussed for fire trucks, for plow trucks, for all the different things that we need. A town this size, capital budget, especially if you're doing roads, should be somewhere between $500,000, $800,000, $900,000, depending upon what you're doing. If you think about it, roads alone, I'm asking for somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 just for roads. Never mind funding all the other things. So in order to mitigate the pain, if you will, to the taxpayer, I've reduced the capital budget in this upcoming cycle by $49,000. So in effect, we're going to be putting $49,000 less into play, assuming everybody goes along with everything. And we'll show you. So I did send out electronically the budget to you all. Lisa has given out the books either tonight or you've been in before to pick them up. Please review the budgets, and because we do want to be transparent, we want to answer all the questions as best as we can. The department heads will be here next Monday night. But if you think about it, going back to square one on that front page, you are going to purchase all of those items. It will either be with debt, and with debt, you have no choice. Everybody goes to the June town meeting and you vote on that article about debt. But the town doesn't have a choice to pay it. If everybody voted no, we don't want to pay debt service, guess what? You're having another meeting and it's coming out of your fund balance. Because you got to honor your commitment. You got to pay the bills. So be it through debt, or I think the wiser course of trying to plan cash flow as we go to the best of our ability. I think personally, all of this is doable, except for maybe the ladder truck, honestly. But as I said to Fred and to John, I said, even if we don't get to the full Monty of it, we're that much closer. It means we need to borrow that much less. And so I'm going to do everything I can to steer us in a direction that has us pay as we go, be debt-free, have what we need to have, but it's going to take a good relationship. Remember, everything's connected. It's going to take all of us going in the same direction to make it so. Or you can tell me, Vic, you're out to lunch, have a nice day. So that concludes my presentation for you of what we need, what we have for dollars, what we need for dollars, and how we get across the finish line. Questions?
Well, in your cover letter, you mentioned the under surplus going from 380,000 down to 178,000.
Right.
What are the contributing? Is there like a major item or reason why this the surplus is diminishing?
So that's a great question. Great question. And I'll try to give you a decent bumper sticker, and Lisa can pipe in anytime. So everything's connected. So at the end of a fiscal year, we have an audit. All the math says, did we spend every dollar that was budgeted on the expense side? If you didn't, good news. That contributes to the surplus. On the revenue side, did you get every dollar that you expected to get during the course of the fiscal year coming in for revenues? If you didn't, you got a problem. If you hit it on the dollar, woohoo. If you exceeded your revenue estimation, double woohoo. Primarily, your surplus is driven between us not spending the budget, the expense budget, 100%, and how revenues react at the end of the fiscal year. And for every line item, there's shifting sands. I can sit here and tell you that state revenue from the state of Maine has increased over the last couple, 2-3 years. That's true. That's helped. I can tell you personally that all the department heads work real hard they all work real hard at turning it, what Scott calls turning in money at the end of the year. So they work real hard just because the budget's there. They're not out there trying to spend the whole 100% of their budget. They're looking to turn back money and only spend what's needed to be spent. Within the budget, there are a lot of line items that you're just guessing at. And as a budget member, you know that. If you can tell me what the price of gas is going to be in the summer of June 2025, I'd love to hear it. So we're just guessing at some of this stuff. But as we guess, we try to be as accurate to maybe a little over on the budget side on these sensitive things like fuels. And on the revenue side, we try to be conservative, like excise tax money. This going into the third year, I think, at $525,000. We haven't upped it at all because the monies have been either side of that since I've been here. And so there's no sense budgeting 600,000 because everything's connected. If you overestimate on your revenues, and everybody goes to the town, goes to voting day here on referendum day and votes those numbers. They are estimated numbers, but let's say we have a $400,000 shortfall for some reason. The state of Maine, we go into recession and the state of Maine doesn't give us what they said they were going to give us, because they're giving us just estimated figures as well. Then if we're below revenue estimation, our tax commitment that prior August went out based on a perfect formula. This game is a house of cards of what we play here. And somehow the magic happens and it works. But the house of cards is when we have a tax commitment, when these guys sign off on the tax commitment, we are really saying everybody needs to pay their property tax in this fiscal year in order for us to hit that number. How many years does everybody pay their taxes? That's why paying your taxes, unfortunately, is important, because the math says that in order for us to hit those estimate numbers, I mean, in the tax commitment, because the total expense bill of the town is divided out between those estimated revenues and the taxes that you all pay through the tax commitment. That's how it happens. And the school is thrown in there too. It's part of your tax commitment. And so the tax commitment assumes that you're paying 100%, that everybody is going to pay 100%. Now, there is a little backdoor saving grace in that, which is not everybody pays 100% every year. For those that haven't paid 100% in prior years, they tend to have to catch up, or else they're going to lose their property through foreclosure. But the whole foreclosure process is like a 3-year turnaround. So this is a long way around the barn, but I think it's a very great question and a good conversation for us all to have an understanding that everything is connected in this conversation.
And I appreciate all budgets have variables. I'm just trying to get an idea if there's any specific reason why the surplus, if there was a major contributing factor to why you have a decrease in the surplus.
So one more chapter. One more chapter that we've been through. So how do we come up with a number? It's a great question. So when we get the audit, which just came out, it says that the town of Mechanic Falls has an undesignated fund balance. Just think general piggy bank. Undesignated fund balance of, and I'm rough numbers, $1.5 million. Slightly higher, but we'll say 1.5 million. I think it's 1,586, but now the auditors in the town's history has had a cash flow set aside of 90 days, which is kind of standard operating procedure for municipalities to have 90 days of cash flow. So out of that $1.5 million, you need to figure out what your total spending is, divide by 12, multiply by 3. And that gives you your 90-day set aside. So you take the $1.5 million and you subtract out what that 90-day set aside is. And then the balance of that, which going into the next fiscal year is $178,000. And for anybody who's wants to dig into the minutia, the audit is on the website. All you can do is go to table 3. It's page 9, table 3, and it will show you the undesignated fund balance. It will show you the other categories in there. You'll see the current 380,000. And there's a formula based on that formula of doing the 90-day set aside from your expenses. Then that balance, which we have painfully determined in the upcoming cycle, unfortunately, goes from 380,000 down to 178. This is why I say day in, day out, year in, year out, that capital budget needs to stand on its own, like Scott's public works budget, like the transfer station budget, like the admin budget. It needs to be its own thing. And it isn't like anybody is doing any smoke and mirrors. This is all out there public, right? Everybody can see the numbers just as plain as day. And at the end of the day, as I say from time to time to the counselors, it's all your money. It's all your money. It's just how we're using it. And by having a 90-day set aside, we're being extremely prudent. And there may be a time or two where there's an emergency situation and 90 days might have to become 50 days. I don't know, but we're not there. And so you may.
We still had revenues exceed what we had budgeted last year. We still saved on the expense side, but one factor I think that is contributing to why our surplus dollars is going down is when we're budgeting, we're guessing at numbers.
Mhm.
We don't have a solid revenue number,
Mhm.
a state revenue sharing number. Last year, the assessor didn't let us use the estimated number. We ended up coming in with a number that was more exact, and we threw that into the budget. Years prior, we had been using our estimated revenue sharing. They've been coming in way over what we estimated, contributing to that fund balance. Now we're much closer to what is actually coming in state revenue sharing. So we're accounting for all of that up front. So we're not having all that, we're still having an excess of revenues. We did last year. I believe we're going to this year. It's just not going to be as big because that guess at revenue sharing is much closer.
Thank
So
you.
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
And we have always set aside 90 days. If we have to do that, if the auditor would have a fit if we did not. So we've always been setting that aside.
So Miss Lisa, basically when we voted back in March or April of last year to add that number that we did,
The revenue sharing number?
yeah, that was setting a baseline for being able to get us closer to what we didn't have a number. We were told we didn't have a certain number.
Yeah, we used the estimated number
So
that,
to get it,
but the final number was a higher number.
That is what, May or something?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And because of the tax commitment, O'Donnell's wanted us to use the actual revenue sharing number. And so that's what we did. And so when you guys vote out the budget this time, I mean, all of the eyes, I'd love to tell you that we're going to have a number, and whatever the state gives us is honestly still just estimated, right? You know, so you're living, and remember, everything's connected. The tax commitment assumes everybody's going to pay 100%. Well, that includes on your revenue side, that includes the state giving you 100% of what they say they're going to give you. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. That's why I say it's a house of cards, you know, but we're making a good faith, honest effort at saying the town of Mechanic Falls is good, fundamentally sound. You're going to have capital purchases moving forward. Duh. Do you want to just do it with debt, or do you want to try to plan ahead, see the road ahead, and try to make it happen? Because either that money is going to be spent through debt service with interest, or it's going to be spent through cash flow through the capital and reserve budgets. It's that simple.
Lisa, what's our current interest rate on roads loan?
But it
Roughly.
would have been something that was figured before interest rates went up because it would have locked in when we actually borrowed it. It's not variable. So there's a yeah. Yeah, I think I lost the top of my
so
head.
it's probably very small.
Yeah,
like
it's
two-
really small and
Yeah.
we usually get a good rate because we're municipalities. We're not like a business that's gonna hold. Municipalities tend to stay in business, so we're a good risk.
Do you
Yes.
by chance know what the rate would be if we were to walk into one of these, into wanting to borrow money for, say, the roads tomorrow, what the interest rate currently is?
We'd have to look. It's going to be higher than it was 3 years ago. Yeah. Yeah. Really happy with that one for the time being. Any other questions before we move on to the council meeting? Other than that, thank you for attending. We'll see y'all next Monday night. If anybody wants to have one-on-one conversations with me in the interim, feel free. Say again? 6 p.m. 6 p.m. And we'll do the usual thing. I'll roll through all the budgets. You guys can ask whatever questions you have, if any, from me or Lisa or the department heads. And then we'll break for vacation and we'll come back on the 26th and we'll see what's what. Okay. Yes. To the best of my knowledge, yes. What's that?
I said short of a snowstorm.
Yeah. Oh, hush. It can't snow until at least I'm gone. All right. Thank you very much, gang. We'll break for a couple of minutes and then we'll do the 6:30. Make sure all the microphones are off, please. Who, Janice? Oh, Andrea. Yeah, I didn't hear from anybody last year because Andrea, next week, I believe, will have a school board meeting. So last year she came in one-on-one and I sat down with her. So I'll give her a call tomorrow and try to find a place for her to come in and sit down and go through it with me.
Okay, 6:30, we'll call this meeting to order. We're not going to do the pledge because we've already done it from our prior meeting. You did it. Okay, well, let's do it again.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have no executive session tonight. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda that you had?
Not
We
that
haven't
I-
discussed any. I
not
just
that
want
I-
to make sure you didn't have any. Okay. Public hearings. We'll open this public hearing up for the liquor license renewal for the Village Pizzeria. Do we have a signed off from everybody who needs to? Okay. All right. Well, if there's anybody online or anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. Well, we can close that down then. All right. I would entertain a motion for the
I
Village
make a
Pizzeria.
motion that we approve the renewal of the liquor license for the Village Pizzeria.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you. You want them to sign that now or later?
Yeah,
You
why don't
want-
you send it right over? Yeah, do you have the warrants as well?
Yep.
Okay, take those just so we have them here.
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the January meeting as
Second.
Do we only have one meeting? Yeah, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I make a motion that we accept the department monthly reports as presented.
Ray seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Public comment time.
Okay. Did you have something?
The comments?
Yeah, I'm just going to open that up. If there's anybody in the audience who has, do you have some? Okay, just state your name and your address, please. Yeah, and just, you have to speak right into it, please.
Martin, 219 Jordan Road. And again, wanted to give you some updates on RSU 16. First, thank you to Tasha for being it's a committee that's going to meet between now and August and pretty regularly. And we're going to be revisiting our vision and our mission and our priorities and working on a 5-year plan, goals and action steps.
A community person or a select person?
Hey.
Oh, I actually have the note from Lauren for to be part of it. Is it just is it the whole time or is it the 10th?
Well, actually, it involves a meeting, a full day meeting on
Yep.
at
Okay. Okay.
And then the other part of that. Board in May, on the 13th, would vote on it. District budget meeting.
the 21st. And
A little bit, just a little bit about some of the challenges in our budget process here, and some of them I'm sure you're already aware of. As I talked about before, when we talked about our 3 elementary strong support within our three teams, the 3 elementary. Our challenge is that they are all the same. Talked about referendum for last year, so what was looking at that again, how can we address those ongoing facility issues and putting heating acceleration. And we're hopeful that the Department of Ed can help some of that. We did a grant, had a grant
recently, well, the revolving
renovation.
fund didn't get
But there were over 100 applications for that motion that our town that has. And they funded the 3 projects. Nothing. Also, evaluation. Each of our 3 towns up, and they gave us what they do. That's also, remember last year we used a lot of areas. Last year. Also, we have several positions where the need is still there, but I would definitely do more information. Next month.
Hi, Jeff, 13 Perkins Road. I'm not here to talk about Community Day this time. Our meeting for January got canceled. So our next meeting will be the end of February, at 7 p.m. on the February 28th will be our meeting, where we'll kick off our planning for the summer. So I wanted to talk to you also about a school board, an action item. So I'm the chair of the operations subcommittee. So we're like the facilities maintenance, we deal with the transportation in the buildings and all of the very expensive problems we have going on. So that's what we're actively working on. And we hired a company last year to come in and do an assessment of all the parts and pieces. So we improvement projects lined up for each year. So we know this roof is going to be good for another 5. This part of the and just from all the buildings that we own. So we have a real good sense of what needs to be done. A lot of that work we're going to have to contractors. We're also looking for things. Can we work with, the rec department, if it's like a basketball hoop related thing, or, the soccer field, the sports field, like us, that's something that we have some local resources for. So one of the things that our subcommittee identified that we wanted to ask you about is at Elm Street School. We need some work on the playground area out back. There's a chain link fence that is failing and there's been some erosion. So there's drive around the loop of the school. It's kind of straight when you first come by the adult ed, where the ground is kind of sloping off and it looks like one of those, we're having this crazy weather lately, the rain and the wind, and then washes out. So there's a whole section of the playground that's now roped off that the kids play in that area. So we were wondering if the town would be able to help us with I think it's the bulldozer you got. I know you're buying some heavy equipment or you have some heavy equipment. We don't have anything like that, but if we could work with the town to use either the equipment or the operator to do some of the landscaping work that we need done out there. The description of it is the chain link fence needs to be removed and the lower fencing needs to be excavated. And then we need to bring in gravel and put a new footer and drainage so that we can kind of build a more secure wall to just shore up the back of the playground area. So that's what we were wondering if we could work with the town on some of that work.
The area that abuts the water district down the bottom of that hill.
I think it's closer to the school than that. The playground sits on top and then there's the big slope. It's the fence right around the slope.
So it's up from the water district.
But it is close to the property line on the side of the school,
Back.
right? The
back
tree line there.
across.
What does that look like? Like, is that something we could work with Public Works or how does that work?
So in preparation for this ask tonight, I have the following for you. December 13th, I got an email from John Hawley and I'll read it. His email and my response is pretty brief. Says, Vic, I will have to do a retaining wall project on the rear playground at Elm Street this spring or summer. It will consist of excavating quite a bit of material along with our easterly property line and then adding a gravel pad with drainage topped with concrete waste blocks and fencing. The project will take a week to a week and a half. The operations committee of the school board is asking if Mechanic Falls Public Works could assist with the groundwork. If this was something you might consider, what would the cost be? Feel free to call me. I'd like to chat about this. That morning, I replied to him via email. Hi, John. Hope the world is treating you well. I have 1 foot on each side of the fence on this one. On one hand, I'm always wanting to have us help out where we can. On the other hand, while not 100%, I am scheduled to lose Scott next summer. That will be in itself a big adjustment for the crew, and we're currently drawing up plans to have our crew redo the sidewalk on a good part of Elm Street, as well as summer ditching for our road plan, plus some work for the sanitary district, of course, all their regular duties. I'm just not sure how much more they can handle. Let me discuss this with Scott and Chris, and I'll get back to you. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Immediately, John gives me a call and we chat for a few minutes on the phone that day. And going back and forth, we determined that, this is a lot for our small public works crew as it is. And as I relayed to you guys earlier in the capital improvement plan meeting, since this, they are now taking on North Street And a lot of that sidewalk will suck up some of their time. Now, I did have a meeting with, so we on that phone call just said, hey, you asked, basically we'll take a pass and, Merry Christmas, right? And then the ask here tonight. So I met with Scott this morning because I wanted to make sure that he and I were on the same page about this and that we weren't saying two different things. And so Scott and I discussed it this morning. And while I'm still not sure on his exit plan, hopefully it won't be for a few years if I have anything to say about it. But I don't know the answer to that question, quite frankly. And he did say to me that somebody had mentioned it to him over the weekend about this particular job. And he said that he would to even think about it, we would need to know the particulars. We would need to know the exact dates that we're talking, because again, they're going to be busy doing what they need to do. And this sidewalk project is going to take some of their time because they also got to work with the water department, blah, 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 blah. So in my discussion with him this morning, the elements of the conversation that he would like to have more information on are the dates and the specific ask. And in through this, he and I both agreed we need to reserve the right to still say no. Okay. But and I'm totally fine with reaching back out to John. And again, for me, I don't mind them helping. Like I said to you guys in recent meetings, the towns have a great relationship working together. The school and us have a great relation. The sanitary, everybody works well in the sandbox. But we have a small crew, and I'm just nervous for them that they have a lot to do. And one of the things that we're going to be trying to get back to normal is the painting, the striping, crosswalks, road striping, different things like that. And all of this is obviously weather dependent. In the last couple of years, the first year I got here, it was done in late fall, actually. And then last year it was done in early fall. We'd like to try to do it in the springtime. It makes sense, right? You would like to, most communities by Memorial Day weekend would like to have the crosswalks all freshly painted and, the flags will be out, the town looking pretty for Memorial weekend. And so we're willing to entertain the concept. We need more information, and be it we say yes or we say no, we need the freedom to do that. Fair enough?
Just you thinking the same thing I'm thinking.
Oh, no, don't run away. Don't.
Come back, come back.
Ray LaVoy. Would you entertain volunteerism? I have a great big background. Right, and I've built many soccer fields for the Vineyard Church, and I've built a lot of playgrounds for a lot of different schools. And I never charged a penny for any of my services. So, and I'm always happy to help with projects like this, as long as you guys are willing to work with me, and that it becomes a project of community. We could get this done at very little cost, possibly for just materials, because I have the equipment to do that kind of things, and I've got 30 years of excavation equipment, excavation experience back up as a general contractor. I'd be glad to help out with projects such as this. Obviously, we've got to wait until the weather is more accommodating, and if we find some strong men to take that fencing apart, we can get into it, get into a good working surface, and I've got the equipment to pull the fencing back together. So we could piece this back together at very little cost to you folks. And I'm willing to help you folks out with that. And I know Sonny would help me too. Sonny used to work for me in the excavation business, so he's very familiar with this type of work, so. You know, if you want to get together and, I'll pass you our contact information. Some plans, work. Just up, I live just up the street from there, so.
Thank you guys for your generous.
Want to kill the mic? Okay. All right. That is very generous. Thank you, guys.
Is that it for public comments? Is there even anybody online? No, okay. So we'll move to council comments. I wanted to just mention that I would take this, they need a select person on the April 10th. For the budget meeting for the town, and for the RSU 16, I'll do that. Yep. I'm gonna put it in my calendar right now. Okay. Okay. Is there any other council?
I do. The Public Works and the Police Department have done wonderful work through these last storms that we've had. And I noticed in our packet that we got a thank you letter, which is sad, but it's good to know that our police department was above what
Yeah.
anybody expected and was very caring and consoling to a family in
Yeah.
need.
And I didn't share that publicly because of the sensitive information,
Yeah.
but I wanted to make sure the council saw that.
And then I kind of talked to you about my experience last Tuesday, and I was curious if you and Scott had a chance to talk further about it.
No, actually, it's funny. I always have a host of issues to go over with Scott. And I try to pick my places because he's just so doggone busy and I hate to bother him. But this morning when we met about this topic, I said, I remembered one or two other topics I needed to talk to him about, but in all honesty, yours didn't come up.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to take a
So
moment.
I'm going to do a public service announcement. For some reason, 18-wheelers are turning off of 121, going up Park Street and turning right and going to Elm Street and either going Highland or going back to Lewiston. They're getting lost for some reason. I told him on Tuesday, in the last 3 weeks, I followed 7 of them. The one on Tuesday scared me the most. It was a tandem, which I didn't know was allowed in our state. I thought they were illegal in Maine, but I guess not. And when he got up to the Elm Street juncture there and he started to turn right, he almost took out the telephone pole. So he wound up having to, and I was behind him, I wound up having to back up almost to the vet clinic for him to be able to get far enough back to be able to get into the road center where he would be able to make that corner. And I made that corner and he made the corner. And then when we got to Highland, he decided not to go straight. He decided to do Highland, and another vehicle wound up experiencing the same thing. She wound up having to back down to where that V is and getting out of his way. So I've got a great concern because the kids are walking to school that time of day. And what we could do to safeguard the kids and to keep these big 18-wheelers off of our little side streets, especially during school time.
So I responded with a blank look in my
Like
face.
this, oh no, you got me. That's
Well,
a
isn't
new
there
one.
signage? Isn't there
What's that?
signage that they're not? supposed
That's that's kind of where I'm going, but I do want to, all things like that, I want to go to Scott first.
Mhm.
You know, he might have some words of wisdom on the matter. Wha- What's that? Yeah.
Like the bridge.
Yeah. And then if we're going to do signage, we need to get the proper sign and blah, blah, blah. But so it is something that I will be chasing.
No, but you were on my list to talk to because I really felt you guys need to know that that's what's going on. And it was kind of scary because there were kids, those kids with their cell phones. So. Thank you.
Moving on, you're up, Vic.
All right.
Town manager report.
Actually, tonight I got a few items and an added one,
Okay.
but let's go from the top.
Okay.
So foreclosures. I'm happy to report that the town of Mechanic Falls has 0 foreclosures in the latest round of activity.
Yes.
And a huge, huge thank you to Sarah. Sarah is on it like nobody's business. She calls these people who need to come in and she gets them in here. And to the people's credit, they come in here and they square up with us. And so we have no properties going through foreclosure this year.
Nice.
And it is, especially this year with all of the changes and whatnot. It's a very good thing for the town. Thank you, Sarah. My cohort here and I, Janice and I, have conferred upon the following information. Municipal election nomination dates. So we have 2 seats on the council this year, Tarsha and Daryl. And papers will be available on Monday, March 4th. Filing deadline is Friday, April 12th. And of course, the election will take place on Tuesday, June 11th. So if anybody out there is interested, those are the target dates. ARPA update. I included in your packet an update from ARPA. And so you have the latest information. Once I get the new round of interest, that number will be a little bit higher, but you have the latest and greatest as we speak. So we have just over $20,000 currently. I want to use some of that later tonight. That I think makes sense. I'll go through that in a couple of minutes. Right now I have a topic. Fred, if you're with us, I am going to, I don't know, can I put your, I don't know if you want to pipe in on this, Fred. Yeah, give yourself some audio there if you want. So Fred and I have been in a long conversation about an item that we'd like to bring to you tonight. And it's about the Fire Association building that's out here. Do you want me to set the stage, Fred, or would you like to? Ask to unmute.
Great.
So you need to unmute yourself if you
I
want to
did,
talk.
I did. And that's why I said, go ahead, because I'm trying to figure the computer out.
Okay, all right. So I'll set the table. So, and Fred will step in here if I get any of this wrong, because I'm bound to. So it's my understanding that years ago, the Fire Association building was over on Route 11 at the parking, right?
Yes.
And because of flooding issues and all of that, they were told they needed to move the building. And the powers that be at the time said, bring it over here to the complex. And so it sat here. We pay for, because it's part of the complex, the town technically pays for the insurance on the building. The Fire Association uses the building to store various items. And for the last several years, including this past summer when MMA Risk, John Waterbury, shows up, he's been very keen for those last several years for us to redo the roof on the Fire Association building. And again, because we pay the insurance on it, so that's in his bailiwick. And so it's one of the things that we're tasked to do. So Fred and I have had many conversations that goes in this direction. Since the town is already paying to insure it and it's already sitting out here, what if the fire association was to donate the building to the town and still have the quid pro quo right to use the building for storage? In addition, concerning the roof and re-roofing it, the fire association would pay for the shingles and we would pay for the manpower to put the shingles up there. And so basically we have a simple proposition, and there's no paperwork tonight to present here to you, just the concept. Are you as a council willing to entertain this thought process of them donating the building to the town with the quid pro quo of they get to use the building for storage and they pay for the shingles and we pay for the manpower to do it?
Doesn't the town pay for the, what you said? Don't we pay for the fire department insurance and stuff too?
Yes, but the fire association is technically a separate entity. It's its
Yeah.
own entity.
Is there
Um,
fire department? But if I have that agreement and keep it within that realm.
But it would still, so you're splicing hairs because it's still to the town, right? So I would just keep it, as simple as give to the town. Fred, I don't know if you want to step in here with any comments?
yeah, the association through the years have maintained the building. As you know, with COVID and all that stuff and the way fundraisers have gone, the association's fundraisers have really dropped. That building used to be, like you said, used to be on Route 11 heading out. When they built the new bridge is actually what made us having to do it. When they put the new bridge out there, the state took it by eminent domain. Dana Lee worked with us to get this there. As of right now, fire department has 90% of the storage in there. We have the brush truck, we have the boat, we have extra old hose in there, our foam stored in there. Actually, the town has actually been paying for the heat way back before John Hawley was even town manager. And all the association pays for the electricity, and we maintain the furnace in there. And what we use for storage is the grills for fundraiser, like when I do a community day. There's some totes with all the kitchen stuff and stuff like that. And we have the old ladder truck that the association bought with their funds a few years back, the 1920 around these. Now I lost the year, but the old Chevy ladder truck, the original ladder truck, was stored in there. It's a little hard to get out. Through the years, rec committees used it. They've used the electricity off the building. We worked with them so they could have their ice rink and their batting cages. The Public Works has used it. It just got to the point where they don't have the money, and when they told us we need a new roof, which we didn't know we were doing it, the insurance company says, you guys can't do it. We were gonna volunteer to do it. Now with manpower, we don't have the people to do it. And also with insurance, they said being on town property, we need to actually have some kind of crew that has workman's comp to do the thing. Any of us fell off. That was back when Zach really started looking into it, that insurance guy, and then he brought it on to Vic after that. So we've been trying to figure out what we could do. Association ain't got enough to pay for the shingles and then pay for a crew to do it. And with so much of the town taken care of, it's like a substation is what it is. It's pretty much fire department substation. So we come up with this that, well, if you guys take it over, we'll take funds we've had for the last couple of years and buy the shingles, which I think they're around $7,000 to help out, and if that would work, and if we can still store our stuff in the corner of the building like we use right now.
Ray LaVoy here.
Yes.
How many squares is that building in? Is it one layer or two layers that, are you gonna have to strip the roofing off of it?
Squares, don't ask me, I'd have to go and measure, I'm not a carpenter. But no, it's only this, is an original roof, that is one layer roof. I've talked to John Damon Construction, and I think he's figured out, but I couldn't tell you. but they figure it wouldn't be very little stripping, just, the shingles that are rolled up hard, and, you just go right over the top of it with new shingles, 20-year shingles, I guess, what you do.
So,
Okay.
and it's probably a good point for me to add this to the conversation. It's an aside from this, but as a part of our Fix 108 thing, through, again, John Waterbury at MMA Risk, he's also dinged us for all the siting issues, not only to this building, but to the other buildings, including the Head Start building. And so it's part of the game plan when we have the siting here. I'll just have them price all that in. And so I don't know if there's anything technically on the fire association building or not. Probably there's something,
Yeah,
but at
they
any rate,
find
it would be
something
all
in-
jobbed together.
As far as siding, I think everything's good. There might be a corner for someone backing in, ding something in the door, but it's just the roof is the major problem right now. And as you can see, it, the other side don't look all that bad, but this side, the side towards the road is the one that looks the worst. And,
So we thought it was just a good solution.
Well, I have a question. We're already basically liable for it because it's on our property and we pay the insurance, correct? So it would just be like a transfer with paper,
Yeah.
on paper.
Yeah.
And, okay. So
Yeah, I don't
it's
need a
kind of sounds
motion
like,
or anything
yeah, it kind of
tonight.
sounds like a
It's just
no-brainer, but it's an idea.
conceptually,
Yeah.
if you guys gave us a big roadblock, then we would come up with something else. But if you're, and I'm not hearing it so far, if you're willing to entertain it, I'll take it to the next level. I'll have some paper drawn up.
that's the only thing you're changing is we had like a 99-year lease for $1 on that little square piece of prop. Well, not little, it's, whatever the square footage of the property is what they did when we originally put it down with, way back when Dana was here, it was like a 99-year lease on that.
Do you
property.
know if you have if I can look? but
I'd
do
have
you
to
know-
look up too. I mean, you figure how long
All right.
Dana's on, but.
Well, probably what I would do if we're going to move forward, I would take whatever we have for material and send it off to Kristen, our town attorney, and have her just do up something simple for us that the council can sign and the association can sign, because we need counter signatures from you guys too.
Okay, yeah,
Well, and my concern was making sure the fire department didn't lose space that it depends on for storage. That's why I was asking if there was some way to just transfer it from the association to the fire department. That way we don't have to worry about them potentially losing storage when a bunch of us goes away and somebody goes, oh, we got this building.
No, that would be part of the quid pro quo,
Yeah,
part
that,
of the
yeah.
transfer.
I mean, I would just keep, I hear what you're saying, but I think you can broaden that out if you just say the town of Mechanic Falls and we have the quid pro quo language in there. Because trust me, he's not going to want to give us, the association isn't going to want to give us the building and then we kick them out, right?
yeah, that was brought up and we said.
Yeah, no, and I'm not talking like the immediate, I'm talking.
Yeah,
like
there'd be
it's-
language in the actual agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure they're covered when
Yeah.
all of us are gone.
No,
Nobody remembers
I
this.
hear you. I don't want the fire guys mad at me, so I hear you.
So would that come from the 108, Fix 108 budget?
Yeah, so what I was doing, be it or one of the other contractors we're looking at, it would be just probably a spring, summer, fall project whenever we tee it up. But it is something that I need, it's a checkbox I need to do with MMA. And this seemed like a reasonable solution because it's here, we're paying the insurance. So then with that said, Fred and I will move forward on this. I'll try to have something at your next meeting for you. We'll see how that goes. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, any help you can give us along that would certainly help. But the funds to do that from our end will indeed come from the 108 complex budget. All set, Fred?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, that covers the Fire Association building. So as a part of your packet, the next item you have in your packet, the new 3-year MDOT work plan. And we're still on schedule with DOT, as I said earlier, concerning the bridge and the intersection and some other road work, which is good. Fix 108 update. I've kind of shared a little bit with you guys, so I won't belabor the point, except that I'm excited to have Ray, Daryl, and Ryan in this, and we're beginning to work on projects. It is going to be chapter by chapter, and so stay tuned. We'll keep you informed. Partly, Ryan's a good brain on this stuff. He has some good ideas. He knows a lot of people too, you know. And so it's good. Yeah, and it doesn't hurt to have the code enforcement officer involved, right? Bridge naming. So through the hallway conversations and various emails that you guys have seen, plus a couple of months ago, you guys took a vote to support the naming of the bridge to the Bill Dunlop Memorial Bridge. And so Eric's, of course, is pushing that forward. I do have here something for you as a part of all of what the state legislature is looking for, different elements. They're looking for some hard copy paper from the council. And so I've teed up something for you. I'd like for you to sign. And so I don't know, Eric's, if you want to say any words on this or if you're good, or you're all set. Okay.
Came and spoke to us personally.
And I don't think you guys need to take a vote on it because you've already voted on it.
Okay.
And so, if, you know, just go ahead and sign. I'll get Daryl to sign. And Daryl's not here tonight, so I'll wait to give it back to you once I have his signature. Okay. Yeah, if you want me to make a PDF of it and send it around, I can do that. It might be some time though. Daryl, it depends when I get Daryl in here. Okay, so as you sign that, I got an added one for you. Proving that this whole tax stabilization idea from our wackadoo state legislature was a bad idea. I mean, it was a great idea for senior citizens, but it was a bad idea in terms of trying to run a program. And so here's more to the story. We all know already that it's just a 1-year program, one and done. So now comes the details and the fine smithing, and it's ticked off a lot of municipalities, including yours truly. In your packet, there's a letter from me that I sent to the Appropriations and Financial Affairs Committee. So when this legislation was passed, they set aside $15 million to fund the stabilization program. What they received was $26,500,000 that they owed the municipalities. Plus, they paid the municipalities a taste for, I think it was like $5 per sign up. We got the $5 per sign up check last fall, or earlier this year, I should say. No, last fall. It is February. And so obviously $15 million does not cover $26,500,000 worth of commitment. In the actual legislation, it says up to 100% reimbursement. All of the materials in every conversation was 100%.
Oh, wow.
There was no up to. And so I immediately, once I saw this from the state, I immediately sent emails off to Bennett and Boyer. And MMA has obviously been on this too. And so as fate would have it, there's somebody on the Appropriations Committee who is in the process of submitting emergency legislation, which bypasses all the normal rules and regs for waiting and voting and all that. And so there is LD, I think it's 646, that is in front of the committee as we speak. I have been assured by Rick Bennett and others that my words, not theirs, this is pretty much a foregone conclusion. We're going to do this. But it ain't across the finish line until it's across the finish line and the governor has signed it, right? And so we received a check for 56% of what was owed to us. What was owed to us was a little bit over 103,000. And we received a check for a little under 58,000. Now, if you remember our conversation earlier tonight about the tax commitment and how it's designed, with flaws as it is, it's a house of cards. When you set that tax commitment, it's basically the math is saying everybody needs to pay their tax bill in order for the whole budget process to really work. And so if the state of Maine doesn't honor their commitment, it creates a gap to the tune of, rough numbers, close to $50,000 for us, somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000. And so if the state did not honor its commitment, in theory, the math says the town would be short that amount of expected money. So it's in front of the Appropriations Committee as we speak to fix this. Somewhere in the near offing, votes should be taken from the committee. There's a meeting on next Tuesday, February 13th. I couldn't attend that in person, so I sent them the electronic written testimony. If anybody wants to geek out over it, go on maine.gov, follow the process. If you want, you can tickle me an email and I'll send you a couple of shortcuts to get there and you can file your own testimony. But I am basically assured from Mr. Bennett that this is expected to go through the committee, through the legislature, and for the governor to sign. And once the governor signs, there is no 90-day waiting period. It's in effect immediately. And we would expect to see the balance due to us sometime later this spring in this fiscal year. So all I'm telling you is that this stabilization thing,
I think Daryl called this. So my question is, are they just going to pay it? They're going to just pay the rest and then not go forward with that?
they're putting through, so the original was 15, the tag was 26.5 plus the, whatever they paid everybody for the signups. They're asking for another 15 million. So they'll make it 30 million. And the monies are coming from basically their undesignated fund balance. You're right. And so the monies are there. And, we just have to.
But is it going to make this program go away then?
Yeah,
It's
that was
the
just a
end.
one and done. It's no more.
Okay.
Right? And there are some other programs that have taken its place. But just to let you know, it's never boring.
So are we strategically planning in the budget we're currently figuring to cover that with the assumption that they're not going to do what they should?
No. If it, if it got to be like this didn't get through the legislature or it got through and the governor didn't want to sign it, if there was a problem in this next chapter or two, then I would revisit the idea and come up with a game plan. But that should not impact the ongoing day-to-day of the next budget. Everything should be solved for this budget the way that it looks now. But you can imagine, I've been on the top of this thing. I will stay on the top of this thing until the check, as they say, clears the bank. So, worst case scenario, there's also a possibility that other line items in the revenue budget will be in excess. For example, I'll give you a perfect example. We're way ahead in the interest line, the bank interest line of our thing because of the new deal that we did. We went from 0.85 to, close to 5.5% on the couple $1 million we have floating around in the banks. So that greatly just in the ARPA money, it increased like close to $500 this month.
CDR could be applied to it.
Yeah, I mean, that would be one potential way of doing it, but I really, as we sit here tonight, never say never, but
I'm just thinking school fund balance, that's all. And it says.
well, the school bill is going to get paid regardless.
What they did the same kind of wording about funding so much of the school budget every year and they.
Oh, the
never-
55%. Yeah.
and They, oh, everybody.
Yeah.
Do it, and it never happened.
Well, you got to understand, every municipality in the state of Maine is going through this, right? And, you know, Mechanic Falls is a small town. You take some of these major cities, you know, that's some serious coin. They're only getting so far 56% of what they thought they were getting. So I have every faith at this moment that it will be a successful conclusion. But I want to make sure we get the monies in this fiscal year. And if I get any wind of anything different, I'll report back to you guys. I'll let you know. But I just wanted to bring you up to date on this little piece of drama. And that is all that I have for you from my report. Back to you.
Okay, the council rules of order. We all have it in front of us.
Why are we messing with something that isn't tentatively broken? That's my question.
Well, with all due respect, I think it is broken. It's at least broken to several extents. For example, in the current rules of order, you have a vastly outdated agenda. And by your rules of order, we still should be following that agenda. But you guys have given me the freedom to morph it into what it is today. And I have language in there that basically takes out those agenda items. What the heck is it? What the heck is it in there for anyways? Basically, I have language that the meetings will be controlled by an agenda. Simple language. So I think it is broken to the extent that we aren't following the rules of order when it comes to the agenda itself.
Well, I have an issue, number 3 under officers and employees, number 3.4. We have seen a case in this town.
Right, 3.4?
Yeah,
All right, let me get that. Okay. Oh, yes,
okay.
right.
That was put in there because of prior problems and the fact that we had some chair people that were out of control. And the rest of the council, because they couldn't speak to the town attorney to deal with it, had their hands tied. And that's why that's now in there. And I have great difficulty with that being removed.
So, and again, the reality on the ground is this. I mean, again, it's your rules of order, but the reality is different than what it says there on paper. The reality is that when we went to Pretty Flaherty, the council agreed that there were only 3 people who could contact the town's attorney: the chair, the town manager, and the code enforcement officer.
We never
By
put that in
agreement,
writing.
by agreement with Pretty Flaherty, that's our agreement with them. Now you can try to renegotiate that, but I'm just telling you right now,
Yeah,
as it is, if you called them, they would call one of us saying, why am I getting this phone call?
Well, that was an inappropriate, in my opinion, that was an inappropriate negotiation because that was put there for a very specific reason.
Well, they wanted
Well-
that for a very specific reason too. They don't want everybody just calling them at willy-nilly.
we did decide, since I've been on this council, we did decide that it was going to be the chair. So I'm not sure where this came from, because we can't just have any council member calling the lawyers. Like, it's not, I mean, that's time and that's money, and they're not there for our legal advice. It would need to be through the chair
No,
because the
they're
council
there for the
decided.
council.
Yes, but you need to have the chair needs to be the one who decides.
But
it
if
needs to
your,
be a-
if your chair or your vice chair have gone rogue, the rest of the council needs to be able to consult with their town attorney
I
to
know,
be
but
able to
I
do
hear-
what they need to do.
I hear what you're saying, but still, it's going about you're going about it the wrong. You can't circumvent a system just because you think they went rogue. Like I hear what you're saying, but
There's nothing in place if this is removed for council members to be held accountable, the chair and the vice chair to be held accountable by the other council members.
Well, those, yes, this year is because those three council members could, what is the word that you happens when you try to oust a council member? Yes.
Oh, recall, remove?
Recall. Yes, they can recall if
No,
three or
that's
more.
for the public to recall. That's not for another
Yes,
council
yes,
person.
3 council members can.
Yeah,
can-
in your
can agree.
town charter, you
Yes.
have a removal process.
Yes. So I hear where you're coming from, but I don't think I don't think this is like a disciplinarian piece. Our rules of order are that we will go through the chair to do the business. Like I mean, that's how I understood it. And I didn't realize any council member was in here because I remember agreeing with my council at the time that it would just be the chair, because even when we were with the other one, John Conway didn't want just anyone calling. So I remember having that conversation. And that's not just because I'm the chair, because it's not like I want to be in contact with the lawyer all the time. But
Well, it was approved by an attorney in 2012 and it's remained in there. And I have an issue with it being removed. And I know I'm only one of 5, but
So again, you don't have to change anything. I just made suggestions. Half of my suggestions are really just wordsmithing, nitty gritty.
Yeah.
That as I went through it, I said to myself, if I'm going to do this for you guys, I'm going to do this for you guys. I'm going to try to match the reality of the ground. And so those are basically the changes that I suggest to
Right.
you. Whether you change them, don't change them, do something else is totally up to you. And I don't think it has to be decided tonight
No.
either.
But I also think we should see about what other counselors are doing, because I just can't imagine that anyone can be.
I can tell you that in the town of Paris, I mean, and I assume a lot of municipalities, this is a very generalized, ongoing question.
Yeah.
It happens from time to time. And I can tell you in Paris, it's been every which way but loose, where it was, the Wild West. And I can tell you that it was kind of a streamlined process. And it just depends, do you guys want the Wild West or do you want a streamlined process?
Well, I also think that
well, and-
Paulo, that you're coming at this from a place of there was a problem and needed to be fixed. So we need to, moving forward, this is how it works. And I guess if there's, you have to go to the recall thing.
well,
because-
first off, if we need to put the charter, we need to have the charter alongside of this so we can verify exactly what it says before we do anything collectively as a group, in my opinion. The second thing is you want to talk about Wild West. We'll talk to Mr. Hawley about where he came from this last time. And that was one of the things that was an issue, was you had an individual in charge that the rest, if I understood my conversation that I had with him past summer, that made it very difficult because the other counselors couldn't do anything about them.
Well, they could indeed, actually, according to our charter, they could vote if 3 of them vote, they could pull them.
And John said what we had in place was, he wished they had taken on what we had in place. Because he considered them the Wild West.
I do wonder why you said all legal correspondence to an individual council member shall be given to all council members.
You're still on
So
3.4?
like, yeah, so what would that be?
Oh,
Like,
all legal correspondence to an individual council member shall be given to all council members. So this talks in part, it's the cross out was all legal correspondence to an individual council member shall be given to all council members.
so they don't have, if something was for me or for Ray, I wouldn't necessarily need to see it because it's not,
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah. Because if it was to you specific or to Paula specifically, you all should have a right to see it, right? So my suggestion was all legal correspondence to an individual council member shall be given to all council members. So if Kristen wanted to send something to Sunny for some reason, should you all be aware of that or not? She's
Well,
only
if
going to
it's-
send something to Sunny
Right.
that has to do with town business.
And it'd be
Yeah, but are you saying,
FOAA-able.
you're saying strike that or keep it?
Yeah, so my comment is, so the striking is all legal correspondence to an individual council member shall be given to all council members.
Well, I'm just wondering if the town lawyer.
I think it's kind of saying the same thing, more or less. I think I just worded it a little bit different. And again, with some of this stuff, you can say, no, let's leave it the way it is, right? Heck, you can say that on all of it. When I went through this, I just went through this with wordsmithing and going through it in my mind from the nitty gritty to the big picture stuff, what seemed to make sense to me. Doesn't mean that it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong. And I think it's okay for you guys to take a period of time to do this. It doesn't have to be a meeting 2 or 3. I think Paula, if she wants to measure this against the charter, then fine. I'll send the charter out to everybody tomorrow. It's always available on the website.
Oh, I'm very familiar with the charter. Okay, well, I think that we need to table this for tonight though, and revisit it.
I second that.
All right, so we'll table it. I'll keep it on your
Yeah,
old
just-
business until it's resolved one way or the
But I
other.
am gonna take a look at each of I appreciate this part, the comments, how you did that, because I wanna-
And it could be you're gonna find a handful of them. I was out to lunch. I don't know.
Okay.
You know,
And do
but
we
it
need
was,
to
it
take
was
a
that
vote
moment in
on that?
time.
We
gave-
tabled it and we seconded to table it. Do we need to take a vote for
Well, it was-
everybody to table it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess are we discussing it?
Sure.
We considered and discussed, so I'd entertain a motion to table.
I make a motion, we table the council rules of order changes.
Second.
All those in favor?
Thank you.
I see you want to use some of those ARPA funds for a new copier. Tell us more,
Yeah,
Vic.
so tomorrow morning, we're actually having a new copier delivered. I've done the deal. And as a part of the transaction, I told them that don't bill us until mid-February because I was bringing this to you guys to have you guys consider using ARPA monies to do this instead of other reserve monies. So the current copier that's out here is 8 years old. When I got here, we had a couple of discussions with our copier dude from Budget Document about upgrading a couple of years ago. I said, well, it seems to be working fine. Let's just keep going. And so we've just kept going. But as we near the end of the ARPA money, it does make sense in my mind to, it's a piece of equipment, you know, and 8 years is about all you can expect of it. It will have a second life. The one that's out here now, after the new one is installed and set up and we're all happy, it will actually go over to Fred at the fire station. They're excited about having it because it solves a couple of problems in their world. And so this will have an afterlife over there. We ordered some extra toner in advance from our service contract. We will not continue the service contract on the old one over there because it doesn't make sense to spend that kind of money for something that may die tomorrow, right? But it has extra toner, and based on the level of use that I would expect them to have to do. I don't know if is that Fred wanting to pipe in? Do you want to say something on this, Fred?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't get my video. Yeah, we're looking at it. We got everything we've had for, except for my office, all our printers and copies have been donated or used ones. And we've always had to run next door and use that. And this will help out. I mean, we don't use it anywhere near what you guys, the town office uses it for, but when we have trainings, you got to print out a whole bunch of pamphlets for the people and stuff. It would be great. And it has PDF so we can connect the computer with it and scan and all that. So we're kind of looking forward to it. You know, we get a few more years out of it, it'd be great. You know, that's what we're looking.
And so with that, and Fred, I don't know if you heard, but I did get you a new thing of toner, and the toner lasts for a long time. So it will probably last the rest of its natural life. And the new one, it will be delivered tomorrow morning at around 8:30. So my ask for the council is to use $5,616.80 of the remaining 20,000 and change from ARPA to pay for this and use it as we have to this degree of these kind of one-off type things. And so if you're willing to play along, I'd love a motion.
And that's okay with the way the ARPA thing has changed, the writing for usage?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And again, my goal for ARPA at the end of calendar year 2024, I want to have committed and spent all of the remaining monies and all of the committed monies. That's my goal. And so this is a step in that direction.
I make a motion that we allow the TM to spend $5,616.80 out of the ARPA fund to purchase a new copier for the town office.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
The next two topics are the Spirit of America Award and the town report dedication. We, as a council, had already decided, even with Daryl here, on who we wanted for the town report dedication. And I got an email from Janice and from Michelle. Well, yeah, from Michelle for a Spirit of America idea of person. So I know we try to keep that a little bit secret, so that's a little bit fun. So how would we like to move forward with that?
So, do you want to make a decision tonight or do you want to wait for the next meeting for
We
Daryl?
already did it. We
Already-
did it last
Well,
meeting.
the last meeting,
Oh.
we talked about it because we were in public, but we want to keep
So
it
you know
quiet.
who the names are?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, then I would say, because we want to keep it a secret, so this
Yeah.
is a little funky,
I know.
right? So,
Don't email it because
so are
FOA.
you, let me ask you a question. Are you guys all in agreement? Or is there
Well,
some question? Because if the thing is, this on the one hand needs to be done in public,
yeah,
and on the other hand, because we want to keep it secret, it all can't be done in public.
right.
So I hope the public understands in this case that you guys, I would suggest either after this meeting or before the next meeting to huddle up
Mm-hmm.
amongst yourselves in the corner.
Yep.
In front of people, but so they can't hear you.
Right.
And that's straddling the best I think we can do.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. There's I'm showing them the email from Michelle that I got, and then you had told me who sent.
And so what I would suggest is if you want to move forward with it tonight, if you're all in agreement tonight, you can make a motion based on the names suggested and just leave it at
Okay.
that. Okay? And that gets it across the finish line tonight
Perfect.
without having to go to the next meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Let's do that.
I make a motion that we accept the names that were suggested for the Spirit of America 2024 report and the town report dedication 2024 be accepted as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Okay. Would you like me to read the letter so we
Sure.
can accept?
Yeah, yep.
Hold on, let me pull up the thing again. I had it right in there.
And I did clarify with him because the letter really doesn't clarify that it's a gift to the town.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Mr. David Rogers says, to whom it may concern, I, David Rogers, formerly of Mechanic Falls, Maine, as a prior artist attending Edward Little High School, Auburn, was honored by ELHS and received the Class of '81 Art Award. As a result, from art instruction, Mr. Orman, who submitted this train pastel, 1980, to the Augusta State House, and it ended up in the hands of Secretary of State Rodney Quinn and Governor Brennan, issued me a thank you letter that is framed next to my piece of art. The Cadence National Train is a study of composition. Do your eyes leave the picture? The CN train fastly approaches on Park Street, Mechanic Falls, and will leave therefore your eyes room around, and a successful piece of artwork draws your eyes back to the start. I would love to have this provenance displayed at the Mechanic Falls Town Hall, where my mom graduated from in the class of 1954. David Rogers. So I would entertain a motion that we accept this gift from Mr. Rogers.
I make a motion that we accept this art gift from Mr. Rogers and his family.
I second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you. And
Um,
it will go somewhere
somewhere.
in here or the
Can
hallway.
can you print this letter and maybe put it on the back? Like just
Oh,
so it's
oh,
with it,
yeah.
just so that it,
Oh, that's a
like where
good
it came from.
idea. That's,
I was
yeah, yeah,
thinking
yeah,
the
yeah,
same
yeah,
thing.
because
yeah.
it's dated and it's
Yeah.
signed, and I think that the fact that she graduated from here is
Put
nice too.
on back of our letter. Okay, I will do that.
Okay.
And it'll find a home somewhere,
Okay.
but we'll put it up.
What about the library? No, you don't want to hang another thing up there?
I told him that it would be, I told Mr. Rogers that it would be here.
Oh, okay.
Okay, moving on. 14.5, the before and after school program lease renewal.
So I just present this to you tonight, not
Yep.
for action tonight,
Okay.
but to begin the conversation. So if you want to take a motion to table the item until the next meeting, I think that's totally proper.
Yep.
Um,
Nothing changed, correct?
Yeah,
Same?
no, the only information I have, Mr. John Waterbury from MMA Risk
Yep.
has pointed out several deficiencies over there. And Amanda actually had a couple of her own. And so we have put some time, effort, and energy into the building. It does need some more love on the outside of it, with the siding and whatnot. And we had a little thing with one of the storms knocking down a stink pipe or something. I had Nason fix. So we have put some monies into it. We have a line item, a capital reserve budget for the building. We have been using some of that. I am suggesting in the new budget, I think it's a couple $1,000s to keep that line greased a little bit. Amanda has, she and her husband, I believe, have fixed a couple of things on the inside. And they added new chains to the playground equipment that Mr. Waterbury wanted solved. And so it's actually been a very good concerted effort by all. I just give it to you for food for thought. Do you want any changes? Are you comfortable the way that it is? Keeping on. And you guys can think about it. We can chat about it at the next meeting and then
Yeah, I
I'll-
think we should, I mean, it's the towns, so we should maintain it. We're not just gonna let it go. So if someone's using it and we're getting a little bit of money, I personally, I mean, obviously, I think I believe in
And
this
it's
program.
doing a service to the
the town.
residents of the town.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should table it. I just think that we should.
I'm okay with that. If the rest of you are, because I mean, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'd entertain a motion to,
I make a motion that we enter into a new 10-month lease with the before and after school program as written and presented to the council tonight
for FY25.
for FY. Oh, it says 23-24 on it.
Right. That's I gave you the current one.
Oh, okay.
In case you
for-
wanted to look at it to make changes.
Okay. for
okay, because it's
2000
already signed for the 7th, which is last year.
I thought maybe you were just being
Okay.
preemptive. For the fiscal year 24-25.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion to adjourn? That's it, that's all.
I
know you'd
make
like
a
to do that.
motion, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? 7:42.
Thank you.